Welcome back everybody to Moderate Mods, and yeah, in this second episode we're going to be looking at the 1984 Rover SD1 Vitesse, and yeah, seeing how much improved we can give it by giving it a few select mods to improve its performance and handling. But to see what the car is like in its stock form, we're obviously going to go around the same circuit that we did in the previous episode for a few laps and see what the best time we can produce in that is. So yeah, let's get to the circuit. So yeah, this is a really rather solid car in its own right. It's not a car that I hate in any real way, but there is no doubt that this could have been better at the time and certainly can be improved today. So yeah, let's first get around this circuit and see what we can do. So once again, get into rivals, into D class, same class as the MG from the previous episode, but decidedly more powerful and quicker in terms of acceleration and top speed, but still far from the best four-door saloon at the time. Could certainly do a lot better from Germany, but yeah, it's a great car in its own right, and yeah, easily one of my favourites to be added to the game, because yeah, this wasn't added via the car pass or part of the standard game when it was new. It was added via the festival playlist, and yeah, it's easily one of my favourite cars to be added via that form. So yeah, let's see what this classic Rover can do. So one of the best things about this car is the fact that despite it being quite large, it's still not a heavy car. It doesn't even weigh 3,200 pounds, which obviously means that there's not much in terms of technology, which there certainly isn't being an early 80s car, and certainly not being a car from British Leyland. It's not going to have all that much in the way of technology due to being part of that motor group, but still not a lot in terms of weight for a very large saloon car. It's also really rather practical because it has a hatchback, and it's even more impressive in terms of weight when you realise it has a 3.5 litre V8. Granted, the V8 is extremely light anyway, so it wouldn't have added much extra weight over an inline 4 or an inline 6 or a V6, but yeah, it's decidedly lighter than even engine sizes like that, despite being quite large. And it also shares the same V8 that we actually slotted in the MG in the previous episode. Though that engine that I slotted into the MG is decidedly larger than this. It was 3.9 litres. But this in its stock form does have more horsepower than that engine did when we put it in its stock version. But then we did eventually give it a little bit more in the way of power. So yeah, it's also a really good handling car as well. Sure, it's got a little bit in the way of body roll, but certainly not as much as you'd expect from a car from the 80s to have. Because it's reasonably lightweight, the brakes are also decent. It's quite a low revving V8 though. It's very American in terms of its RPM limit, which is not a surprise because it is obviously an American engine. Nicked it from Buick in the 60s. Being an engine from America, they deemed it too small for their rather large and heavyweight vehicles. Even though you can tune this car's engine up to, I think, at least 5 litres on this game, but you can in real life probably get even more than that. Right, let's see what we can do on this final lap. We've managed a 1 minute 12.673 there. We didn't manage to improve our time in the MG on the last lap in the previous episode, so let's see if we can manage that this time around. don't think this car's going to take all that much in terms of improvements to make it a not just a faster vehicle than this stock version, but capable enough to hold its own against other more modern vehicles. Because there's a lot here that is really rather good to work with. Obviously got the front engine rear wheel drive layout, which is solid. There's not much in the way of weight, so we're not going to need to add much more power probably. But yeah, nonetheless, yeah, didn't manage to improve on that final lap there. Once again, seems like I only have a lap in me in terms of improvements. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, let's get into the garage and see what we can do to this vehicle. Right, so here we are in the garage, and as you can see, like I said, it is quite a large car, but despite its immense size and the fact it's extremely practical, this doesn't weigh all that much. So yeah, let's just take a look at the stats before we start going and improving. So yeah, 191 horsepower, 220 pounds-feet of torque for its 3.5 litre V8 engine, and as you can see, it only weighs 3,197 pounds, which is really rather good, like I said, for the size of the car and the fact it's quite old. Older cars do tend to be heavier, and yeah, it's got 53% of its weight up front, which is bang near on 50-50 weight distribution, which is again is fairly good considering it's got quite a large engine up front. And take a look at the its acceleration and top speed for you. So yeah, 0 to 60 7.8 seconds, which is reasonable. 0 to 121.2 seconds, which is okay, I guess, and a top speed of 136 miles an hour. So it's probably one of the faster saloons from its time, but you could probably go quicker than that in a Mercedes, Jaguar and BMW, but yeah, you'd be unlikely to find other vehicles that are quicker than this in the four-door saloon category. Right, so because the engine is quite versatile, I don't think we're going to be swapping any engines into it, especially since we've only got the really rather large choices. We've got a massive 6.2 litre V8 with 415 horsepower to choose from, and yeah, a 1.6 litre inline-4 rally engine, which really isn't suitable for this kind of car, a V12 again, which isn't suitable, and a racing 7.2 litre V8 again, which is unsuitable given how much power it's got. Pretty sure that 5.2 litre V12 is from a Lamborghini maybe, but either way, yeah, we're going to stick with the original engine. We're also not going to turbocharge it or supercharge it because it just doesn't feel right. But we are going to increase the cubic capacity now. What can we do? We can go up to 3.8, 4.2 or a 5 litre. I think a 5 litre would be preferable. It's quite large, but it's not as large as we can swap an engine into it is, and yeah, it's a nice round number. We're not going to do the cams, we will give it a sportier exhaust. So at 219, we'll improve the air filter as well. So we'll go to 225, and we'll do the valves as well. So we'll go to 235. Would like to get it up to a 250 preferably. Valves, intake manifold, fuel system, no, that's just over. I do like my round numbers. There we go, 250. That seems like a reasonable number, and that immediately puts us up to 6.7 seconds to 60. We've slashed the 0 to 100 time by about 5 seconds or so, and we're already up to nearly 150 miles an hour. We'll give it a lighter flywheel. We'll go to sport, knock off some of that weight up front. We'll give it better brakes. We'll give it some sporty brakes. We'll slightly lower the suspension by 0.82 of an inch. I know it doesn't have all that much in the way of body roll, but it did have some. And then we'll give sporty front and rear anti-roll bars. Again, they take off weight and obviously improve the handling. We're not going to take any extra weight out like seats or soundproofing and everything like that because that just feels a bit stupid. We'll upgrade the gearbox so we have a 6-speed instead of a 5-speed, and we'll do the driveline to again knock off some more of that weight. I think we'll do the clutch as well now we've got a fair bit of extra power. And tyre wise, I think we'll just increase the widths because we're only at 205, which is quite small. We'll go up to 255 for the rear. 145 from the front. Wider tyres do obviously add some weight, but we also have knocked some of that off. And yeah, we can't really do anything in terms of bodywork because there is no real option. So yeah, I'm on the whole reasonably happy with that. 250 horsepower is a good increase in power. It's nearly 60 horsepower over what it had originally, and a fair old amount of extra torque as well. Obviously it's also lighter and lower as well, so yeah, 6.549 seconds to 60. Now under 16 seconds to 100, and we'll do 149 miles an hour, so that's 13 mile an hour quicker than last time. So yeah, we should be able to go quite quick now, so let's get back to the circuit and see what this car can do. Right, so we were 1 minute 12.673 in the stock version of this car. So let's see how much better we can do with more power, lower suspension, improved suspension overall, not just lowered, better brakes, wider tyres front and rear, and slightly being lighter. Now granted, I've not improved the RPM because I do like the fact it's quite a lazy V8. So kind of my favourite kind of V8 to be honest. Plus increasing the revs would make this a far more unwieldy car. Certainly will require more in the way of handling upgrades, which I really not think this car needs. I think we've done a fair old amount to it to make it better in terms of handling and braking, so yeah. Definitely feels faster. Yeah, feels sharper to handle as well. Definitely helped by those wider tyres, and that body roll has been pretty much completely eliminated just by slightly lowering it. Didn't even drop it an inch and it's helped. And this extra horsepower and torque is also going to help getting up the hill. Slowed us down quite a fair bit, but as you can see we're able to maintain more than 100 mile an hour. Certainly see why these cars, even in a stock form, were popular with the police. It's quite some time, to be honest. Weren't many ordinary mass-produced cars that were quicker than this at the time. Definitely holding on with those wider tyres a lot better. I say that just as we end up oversteering. Still sounds really good as well. Probably a little bit better because it's got a more open exhaust. And then we go 1 minute 10.103, so more than 2 seconds ahead of where we were with the standard car. So let's see if we can widen that gap a little bit more. Don't know why I was looking behind me, because it's only a ghost and I don't really need to beat that. No big oversteer moment that time, so that should hopefully help produce a better lap time. Indeed it does, 1 minute 9.169 seconds, so yeah, an improvement there of more than 3 seconds, which is pretty damn good to be honest. So yeah, mightily impressed with this. It's obviously not going to compete with a lot of modern day saloon cars, but if you're after a a classic that is being slightly improved, then this car is really rather versatile for that. That V8 engine is endlessly tunable. You can get any kind of size that you want, as you saw when we were upgrading. We have 3 different ways of sizes we can upgrade to, all of them producing more power and also more torque. And yeah, you only have to slightly upgrade the handling to make it better. Slightly wider tyres, slightly better brakes, and slightly better suspension, and yeah, you're on the go. So yeah, cracking car in stock form, and yeah, even more fun when you even slightly upgrade it. So yeah, there we go, another success in terms of upgrades, though I'm not really anticipating any failures, but you never know, some cars can be a bit iffy when they get upgraded. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.